Welcome to Yoga with Cynthia. I'm Cynthia Bialik and both the host and the producer for this program. Thanks for joining me today. Today's program is going to be yoga incorporating the block for a few different reasons. Number one, many people don't feel they need a block in order to participate in a yoga class, and that's very true. But oftentimes there are more advanced poses that are challenging to those who don't have really good hamstring flexibility, potentially have shorter arm length in relation to their leg length, which makes some of the poses more difficult. So they wind up straining certain muscles and don't benefit as completely from the pose that they're trying to produce. So what we're going to do today is explore some of the options that you can use the block for in our yoga poses. But first we're going to warm up a little bit. So the most important part of yoga is recognizing better posture. So let's go ahead and start with our big toes together. And to warm up the body just a little bit, we're going to lift the heels up and put them back down. And at the same time, let's just swing our arms a little bit. And if you keep those big toes aligned and think about squeezing inward through your inner thighs, it's going to be a lot easier to move forward and back on the balls of your feet. You're going to feel like you're in more control of this movement than you would if your feet were apart. So now come up on the balls of your feet, lift up and hold there, and then drop down on the heels. Do it again. Come up, hold there, and then down. So now bring the arms up in the air, and we're going to interlace those fingers and just squeeze those inner thighs. And I want you to be as tall and strong as you can possibly be. And now we're going to twist to the right. Place that left hand out and the right arm back behind you and look back over the right shoulder. This is a really good way to start lengthening the muscles in the neck to prepare for triangle and revolved triangle. Two poses that we're going to focus on today. Let's bring those arms up. Draw the arms into your ears. Squeeze those inner thighs together. First, getting the length in the spine before we twist. We'll get more twisting action through the spine, lengthening more muscles if we twist first as we stretch first before we twist. So let's go ahead, twist around to the left, look back over the left shoulder, stretching the right side of your neck now, stretching the front of the chest on the left, and bring those arms up and in prayer. So we're going to look at chair pose using the block. So if you don't have a block, you could use a shoebox and put a towel inside of it, put some tape around it, and just watch this today and then do it later. We're going to place the block in between the legs. Okay, so we're going to squeeze the knees against the block. And as you squeeze the legs against the block, we're going to start to hinge at the hips. Come down as low as we feel comfortable. And stabilize the body. Draw the navel into the spine. Lift the rib cage up. Create Mula Bandha. Breath is in and out through the nose. Keep your throat open. If you feel you're able, bring the arms straight up in the air and remain there. Hold on to that. Look out in front of you so your spine is long and your head is not falling forward, nor are you picking up your chin and trying to look straight ahead. Let's come on down. So we should have felt the quads strengthening. We should have felt inner thighs because we're pushing against that block. Let's go ahead and examine this from the side. Once again, push into the block. Start to hinge at the hips. When we hinge at the hips, we're engaging the psoas. We're engaging the glutes. We're engaging those hamstrings. We're engaging Mula Bandha as we pull that pubic bone upward, using the strength of the perineal muscles, drawing the navel into your spine, floating the rib cage up, bring the arms to your ears, and now look straight out in front of your mat. Hold strong in Utkatasana, chair pose. Utkatasana means mighty. So get those arms up nice and strong, sitting back, hips over heels, and then come back. All right, so now we're going to work on some angle poses. Let's take the feet out to the side to start, and we're just going to do some more folding forward, and that way we'll get the hamstrings a little bit more limber, okay? So if you need the block for the hamstrings, you can place it down like this and just put your hands on the block. Some of you may not need it at all. You can also put it down here. You could also use the block to put your elbows on. So if you're feeling extremely limber, you can go ahead and put your elbows down the block and let your head drop. So just hold wherever you feel comfortable. Stretching out those hamstrings, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing your neck muscles. And now we're going to start to turn the body to the left. Place your block on the outside of your left foot. Position yourself so that that right foot is turned inward about 45 degrees, and you're pushing your left thigh towards the front edge of your mat. You're going to pull away from the block, so you're just positioning your hand there without putting too much weight in it. You're going to open the chest and allow that right shoulder to stack over your left. And once you've opened the chest all the way around, you're going to take that right arm straight up in the air and look past your fingers to the ceiling. And this is called Uttiti Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. Now, an alternative for Uttiti Trikonasana is Trikonasana. So with this pose, you'll be coming down and just using your own body on the shin perhaps, and then just opening your chest here. So you're not all the way down to the floor. Now, once you have the block to use, though, you have a little bit of a lift, which enables you to rotate your spine a little bit more, and you become a little steadier. So we can also do the second level of Uttiti Trikonasana, which is variation 2. You're going to drop that right arm over your shoulder and continue pulling it outward over the crown of your head, so we're lengthening the lats, getting a really good lat stretch in. We're pulling the head straight out, so we're stretching the cervical spine, then we're rotating. And let's come down. Let's drop that head down into your knee. Take 2 breaths. And come back to the center. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Turn your toes in. But first, let's come down. Again, you can put the block wherever you want to have it. Some of you may be up here. Might be more difficult. Place those hands down if you choose. Some of you may not need the block at all, but you can put it between your hands and put your head in front of the block, dropping down a little lower if you choose. Pressing the block into your hands to create more stability in the pose. And this is Prasarita Padottanasana, widespread forward fold pose. Let's turn to the right. Turn all toes there. Place the block on the outside of your right foot. Open that hip. And again, if you need to, always know you can move the block up wherever you need to have it. So if you choose to have the block here, this is fine. So from that point, you're opening up the rib cage. Make sure your head is pulling over that front foot. You're stacking the left shoulder over your right. You're going to open that chest and look up into your left hand, stretching up as high as you can. You want to have it down lower, feel free. Just open that chest up, lifting the rib cage as high as you can. Deepen your breaths, keeping that left shoulder back. And again, a reminder, if that isn't possible for you, you can keep your hand down, either above or below the knee, and just look up. In Trikonasana versus Uttiti Trikonasana, which is the extended version. And now that you have that stability and you want to do variation 2 of that extended triangle, Bring your left arm over your shoulder. Keep looking up under that left shoulder, stretching the arms out. And now fold into that right leg, nose to knee. Now let's go ahead and we're going to position our feet once again back to the middle of the mat. Rotate your shoulders. You can put your elbows down. You can bring your hands underneath your hips. You can put your block, hold the block here, and bring your head down. So whatever you want to use the block for, sometimes push into the block, hold it here, push into the block. It's a little helpful because by pulling those arms in and contracting the chest, you have a little bit more leverage to get the head down. All right, we're going to go ahead and try the revolve triangle now. Let's turn all toes. Now your back foot this time is turned at a greater angle. So turn all toes to the left side of your mat. You're going to place the block on the instep of your right foot now, of your left foot now, and you're going to turn to the back of the room, the back edge of your mat. You're turning away from your right arm into your left side and opening that chest up high. Now remember to keep anchored in that right foot. Both feet are firmly anchored into the floor. Open that chest all the way around. Two more slow breaths in the pose. And come on down. Let's try the same thing on the other side. Turn that left foot around so it's a little further around. Place your left hand on the block. Pull back into your right hip. Start to turn. Keep both feet firmly anchored into the mat. Roll back into that right shoulder. Keep lifting the chest. Keep pulling the head straight out over your right foot. And come on down. Let's come up to a standing position and stretch that block up in the air. Push into the block here. Bring those arms straight out in front of you. When you push into the block, you'll feel the engagement of your pectoral muscles. So you can push into the block, engage your pecs, and now pull your shoulders back, okay? And do a little exercise for getting ready for Chaturanga Tadasana. So we're going to work on that next. What I want you to do is place your hands forward on the mat. Pull the crown of your head forward. Now, you're going to plant your block right in the middle of your mat. So if you're just practicing your Chaturanga, you're going to come down and just fall into the block and then push away so you can practice your strength. Come down, and that way you don't have to worry about your abs doing all the work. So come down and hold, and then push back up. And one more time, come on down, and just hover, and push back up. All right, put your block out in front. We're going to stretch those shoulders now. Pull back into your hips. And just stretch those shoulders. Let your head come between them. Now we have several passive uses of the block, so let's explore those now. Here's another one. You can bring those hips up in the air and bring those knees right under the hips. Slide the block forward and drop your head between those elbows. And that's a low dog. You can also use the block for a down dog. So let's go ahead and move the block to the middle of your mat here. You're going to curl your toes under. You're going to pull back, open your hands wide, drop your forehead down on the block. Lift your hips up and push into the block with your head as you pull back into your heels. Some of you may find this helpful. If you have more flexibility, you may find it easier just to let your head continue going down. And let's come down to the mat. All right, so where are some more of those passive movements for the block? All right, so if we're working on opening the chest, making sure that we have good anterior deltoid length and pectoral length, we can place that block right underneath our shoulder blades. So as we come over the block, our shoulder blades are right at the top of the block. This is kind of a modified fish pose, if you will. You're going to let the head come back over the block and bring the arms out to the side. Allow your shoulders to drop down so you feel the release through the front of your shoulders and your chest. Now, another passive use of the block is sitting on the block to get a greater hamstring stretch. So if you have difficulty reaching for your toes, you can try sitting up on the block and allowing your pelvis to come a little further forward than you normally do, and just walk down towards your heels and see how far you can go. Now, with that same forward fold, some of you may already have very limber hamstrings and want to use the block to further your flexibility. For you, you can put the block on the bottom of your feet. Traction the spine, lifting your chest here, and reach around for the block. Pull it against your heels. Bend your elbows and anchor down into your knees. Another passive use of the block is to come down and place that block as high as you can under your pelvis and hold bridge. If you have very tight psoas muscles and not too much flexibility in your abdomen, you do a lot of crunch work, but you don't really do any extension work, so you forward flex a lot, you do a lot of abdominal crunching, you may be very rounded and want to achieve a better back extension. So you can take the block and either place it on the side like this and reach for your heels, or if you want a greater extension and you feel that you can hold this for at least 3 minutes, you want to lift your hips up and place that block under the buttocks. Push down into your heels and then reach for the ankles. So this way, again, you don't have the force of gravity, and you can really work on your flexibility instead of worrying about the force of gravity straining your back in any way. This way you can just truly work on the flexibility of the front of the body while you contract the back. Then you could drop the arms down, lift one leg in the air. And switch. And then you could also take the block down and sit on it here and use it for a passive legs up in the air pose. Now you can do legs up the wall, but you can also just put a block under your hips and just do it passively this way. Now, if your psoas muscles are chronically tight and you want a nice passive body bridge, you can slide your legs down the bottom of your mat and reach back, thumbs down, and just use the block for this purpose. Full body bridge. Now slowly come back. Take the block out from underneath you. Roll to your side. And this is another good use of the block. Oftentimes when we do that side twist, it's hard for people to open their chest without lifting their leg up. So placing the block between your legs keeps them separated. Usually find a little bit more comfort in this position. So go ahead and see how you do with this, opening up the rib cage and looking back over your left shoulder. See if that enables you to pull back into your left shoulder a little bit more. And certainly try the other side. And just breathe. All right. So the last one, and only do this if you feel comfortable, is we're going to sit with the block between our heels in this position. That way you're not sitting all the way back on your heels. And for those of you that have any knee issues at all, it puts less pressure on your knee joints. We're going to actually end like this today. But I want to take a moment to thank you so much for watching Yoga with Cynthia. Till next time, namaste. And I just want you to hold this pose, reach back for your heels, and let your chin lift, and then bring it back down. And just spend some time stretching the neck.